Okay, folks, in an unprecedented move, the NFL has proposed $100 million in contributions to causes important to African-American communities. That's a good thing. The league hopes that the offer will bring an end to the peaceful but controversial protests for social justice started by a good Kappa man, Colin Kaepernick. I said that, didn't I? While the package appears to be a victory for players who've been seeking to partner in the NFL in supporting player activism, tensions within the Players Coalition has led two of the players to announce their departures from the coalition. Eric Reed and Dolphin safety Michael Thomas released identical tweets saying, quote, "The Players Coalition was supposed to be formed as a group that represents NFL athletes who have been silently protesting social injustices and racism. However, Malcolm and Anquan Bolden can no longer speak on our behalf as we don't believe the coalition's beliefs are in our best interest as a whole." Joining us to talk about all of this by FaceTime is New York sports writer for CBS Local Sports, Jamal Murphy. Are you there, Jamal?
Yes, I am. Good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. We're here with the panel, but let's start right away. What's your take on this which appears to be a break, but I'm not so sure what impact it's going to have on the coalition and this deal with the NFL moving forward? What's your take on it?
Well, my take first on the actual deal is that it's a good thing. It's groundbreaking. We've never seen anything like this. In the NFL now would be doing more than any other league, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, as far as social justice issues are concerned. So I think it is a big deal. I think it's a big accomplishment.
But Jamal, if I may, can you hear me? Jamal, we're talking about a multiple billion-dollar industry and $100 million with contributions from the players and I think the teams as well as the NFL. That seems to be a drop in the bucket compared to the major issues we're facing vis-a-vis racism and social injustices for our communities of color.
Well, I agree. I think both things are true. I agree with you. You could say it's a drop in the bucket. It probably is in the overall picture. But at the same time, it's more than the other leagues are doing, as I was saying. It's way more than the NFL was even thinking of doing before. So it does show the leverage that the players had and that they were able to get something accomplished moving forward. But of course, this is not the end all be all. There's much more to do. There's much more pressure to put on the NFL. I agree with you there.
Yeah, we certainly ought to be keeping the pressure on because this isn't the end. This is the beginning of the journey, I hope, and I hope the players understand it. But can't we all get along? I mean, my goodness gracious, what is wrong with our community? I mean, this is progress, and now we have two very important members of the Players Coalition walking away seemingly because they weren't consulted? That makes no sense. Come on now.
No, you're right, and obviously there are issues, and all these organizations, period. There are going to be some disagreements and different factions, and I think that's the case here. We know Black Lives Matter themselves have had their issues within the organization, so this is nothing new.
Yeah, but Jamal, here's the deal. Sure, every organization, black or white, doing great policy work and great efforts have these issues, right? But our organizations, our African-American organizations, seem to want to share them with the world as opposed to sharing them within the organization, working it out, presenting a united front, and fighting for more money if really the ultimate end game is to improve our communities of color. What gives here?
No, I agree. I agree with you that you can't argue with that. I would, it's not a good look. I would rather they were all on the same page. But, there are factions. I think, as you said, this, some people feel like this is a drop in the bucket. It's not enough. And it also doesn't address the Kaepernick situation and why he doesn't have a job. And I think that's why the two players, that's the major difference that we see here is that they wanted that addressed, and that's not really addressed in this agreement.
Well, that certainly is the public. We've got the public story, right? You're one of our best sports reporters. What are you hearing vis-a-vis background? What's the real deal here? Is this going to pass? Is it going to move forward? And what else is going on politically behind the scenes in regard to this effort?
Well, I mean, it looks like it's going to pass from everything you hear. You do have the two defections at least. There may be more. So it's still a delicate situation. It's delicate not only on the player side, but on the owner side. As you could probably guess, the owners had to be persuaded to do this.
Persuaded? Is that what you call it?
Well, So, I mean, to put it nicely, persuaded.
Right.
But yeah, and that goes back to the original success of the players. In order, they use their leverage in this way to, I guess, force the owners to do something. Obviously, they would have never done this on their own. They would have never done this if it weren't for the pressure that the players put on them. So, but it is still a delicate situation. It's not done yet. And you're right. Both sides need to get their act together, and the players. It's the responsibility of the players, to help the communities, to help people of color, that they get their stuff in order.
Got it. Well, listen, Jamal Murphy, thank you so much for joining us. Let me jump in our panel right here. Derek, I see you almost jumping out of your seat about this. You must be a big sports fan. What's on your mind? Come on, bring it. I mean, it's $100 million is a lot of money, but it is a drop in the bucket when it comes to the Billionaires Club.
What percentage of their revenues is $100 million? That's what I want to know. It's less than 1/10 of 1%.
I was trying to go to Derek.
I know.
but here again, whether it's Roland or me, you're going to get it in. I'm going to come to you. I promise you I am.
But you're right. I'm going to get it in.
Derek, go right ahead.
Well, I think it's insulting with the amount, but it's a start. And I also feel like they're just throwing money on something it's not, and there's still no end game. Okay, I met.
When you say no end game, what do you mean?
Like, part of this was about criminal justice reform. There's a bill that was just introduced last week by Congressman Mark Walker from North Carolina in conjunction with Congressman Cedric Richmond from Louisiana, a bipartisan effort for criminal justice reform. Okay, that's where the focus needs to be. The $100 million, that's good for the community. We appreciate it.
Well, but they've set up Kim, they've set up a committee, and the designated money going to UNCF and then other community programs, and I think there's another bucket for another set of programs that kind of cover not just education, but criminal justice reform and what have you. So the percentages are there, but these types of projects and programs only work once you peel the onion back and you get down. So you can give it to UNCF, but what's UNCF going to do with it? But the other community-based organizations where a coalition or a committee is going to select who gets these grants based on what they focus on, how effective that money is used, it's got to get to the community, doesn't it? Regardless of what your politics are, it's got to get to the community, doesn't it?
Right, you're absolutely right. And I think the fact that the NFL is kind of handing this money over is kind of showing, they're saying, look, if it doesn't work, it's not really our fault, right? And they're feeling the heat.
Well, they'll have members on the committee, though. I don't think
but they're kind of like shifting it a little bit. And they're feeling the heat. They got people that aren't watching because people are kneeling. They got people that aren't watching because nothing's being done with Colin Kaepernick, right? So they feel this heat. $100 million, it's a drop in the bucket. I run a nonprofit. In our grants, we're requesting $2 million a year. And that's just workforce development in Baltimore City. So you're telling me $100 million is going to stretch how far? Not very far.
Julian, what do you make of Thomas and Reed publicly, not denouncing, but walking away saying that they weren't consulted and that two of the lead players that were kind of, the lead, because you can't have a conference call with 300 players or 100 players and then get anything done. So you're going to have leadership there, representation, and then taking it back to the players. What do you make of this public break?
Well, I think
the players.
At some level, as you say, can we all get along? I mean, it's an amazing effort for the players to come together, but just like the NFL and the players, they all don't agree. I mean, I imagine that Jerry Jones was pulled into this kicking and screaming for $100 million. I mean, he has never been particularly supportive of racial issues. So I'm sorry that these players did this, but I think it's par for the course, as Jamal said.
Well, we have to stay tuned and stuff. I just hate black people publicly breaking from the group. It really doesn't make any sense because we're not going to get that. We're not going to get fired like that. Let's keep going.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no.
That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.